Beauty and Brains presents A Work in Progress, your favorite weekly podcast all about navigating adulthood and adversity with transparency and vulnerability. Here, we highlight progress over perfection. You're listening to my personal and professional development diary, where I share the highs and lows and the real and raw parts of the story that no one talks about. I'm your host, Brelynn Hunt, A Work in Progress. Dear friend, I hope all is well with you and that you are as healthy in body as you are sound in mind and strong in spirit. Welcome back to A Work in Progress, the podcast. I feel like I'm a little far away, like I can't really hear myself. Let me get up in your ear. What am I on today? Okay, hey guys, welcome back to another podcast. As you can tell by the title of this episode, today we're going to be talking about workplace challenge, or maybe you can't tell because the title is just I quit. Because yes, you guys, I've quit again. We're going to talk about that and more after years. Well, not years, I'm being dramatic. After months, what feels like at least a full year, maybe 2 years, but months of you guys hearing me complain about my job. A few months back, I finally did something about it, and I was able to transition into a new position at a new company. And I originally wrote down all this stuff about workplace challenges because I think it's just a really interesting topic to discuss. I found a lot of people actually really did relate to me working like this dead-end job despite having a lot of career aspirations, like knowing what I want to do, wanting to do more, wanting to make more money, wanting to have more autonomy over my life, but still kind of feeling stuck despite having several, college degrees and things like that. So I thought it was a really interesting topic to discuss because in a place where I felt so alone, I actually wasn't. And thank God I am transitioning out of the young adult workplace situation. And I just thought that, I wrote down these feelings and these thoughts and just wanted to discuss. Back in August of 2020, wow, which seems like a lifetime ago. It really has been a long time coming. That was like my first full-time job. I have had other jobs, but I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and I didn't expect to face so many challenges. And so, in the spirit of telling you guys what I wish I knew before starting a full-time job, especially as a young professional or a gap year student turned employee, consider this to be my tell-all of all the different workplace challenges that you may face, because there are probably hundreds, if not thousands of you guys who you yourself are about to, join the workplace. And you may be excited because you're like, good, I'm tired of school right now. Finally get some money in my pocket. Yeah, like there's some pros to it for sure, but it's wild out here in the workplace. If you haven't started yet, maybe come back in a couple of months because I don't want to scare you. If you're just starting and you're looking around like, what the heck is going on? Yeah, this is that moment where I let you know you're not crazy. And if you're like me and you're transitioning out or just want to hear like, what are the youngies going through? What are the young cats going through? And also I did have a red Jolly Rancher. So my tongue is a little bit red. Anyway, let's talk about all the different workplace challenges, and then I'll discuss why I ended up leaving the practice that I was at to go to a new practice, and then why I ended up quitting that job as well, and like what's next for me now that I am unemployed again. So when you are new to the workplace, one of the first things that you struggle with is kind of like fitting in. Figuring out how to be a part of a new work culture can be at times frustrating. Like you want to get to know your coworkers, just in order to, have a happy environment. Just like how you have friends in college, you think that you're going to have friends at work. But it took me a while to learn the lesson because in one way, me just being open and friendly and the miscongeniality that I am, I wanted to build trust and allies and have friends. And somebody who the first person who I met and I called my work bestie is actually one of my greatest friends to this day when I walked into that practice. But I did have to learn the hard way that like everybody is not your friend. And that can be a really hard lesson to learn, because although everybody's not your friend in college as well, I mean, it just really doesn't make any sense to me in the workplace as to why people felt the need to go out of, like, it's one thing if you just don't click with somebody, or if you're just not in the same department, so you don't have a lot of chances to like get to know somebody or work with them. But I don't know. For me, I just always thought that it would be common sense to be friendly and respectful. Ask questions, especially if you're new, if you don't understand something, and the people who have been there should be willing and open to help you, because obviously they know what they're doing and you don't. And just like I thought, if you had a good attitude, manners, and, a strong work ethic, if you showed great work habits, that it would show that you are a professional. And that wasn't always the case, which I just found to be really, really strange. Overall, my piece of advice is just like, don't contribute to office gossip. It's so minuscule and stupid. And there are just some people who, and again, this is me talking from the young adult standpoint of kind of like being trapped into being an employee. Like, you're there because you have a goal, and your goal is not to be there working full time. Now, if you want to be working up the corporate ladder and you are at your first corporate job, things may be different. But for me, working as a medical assistant, I had 3 goals. And I say this all the time. I forgot what I used to sing. I used to be like, get that check, get that wreck, and leave. I wanted my check. I wanted to be able to make some money, because I had been obviously like a student for my entire life. I really wanted like just consistent money. I wanted a letter of recommendation for medical school, and I wanted like the experience to put on my medical school application. That was it. Anything else was an additional bonus, and I didn't need it. Like, I didn't need to leave with more friends. I didn't need to leave with this or that, or like the petty drama. Like, nah. But at the same time, I'm not gonna lie to you, I am a people person. Like, I love talking to people, getting to know people more, hearing their stories, helping them out where I can, learning from them, or giving them my own life lessons. Like, it's just a part of who I am. But again, sometimes people just aren't on the same page as you, and they can really like bring you down, especially if they're the type of people who like to focus on gossip. So my biggest advice is just like, do not contribute to office gossip. I remember first coming in and people being like, oh, this doctor is like this, and you're not gonna like them because of this. And it ended up being my favorite doctor in the practice. And if I would have listened to everybody else, like, I wouldn't have had a letter of recommendation and a great relationship with this person. So literally just take everything at face value. I don't know why people feel the need to do that. And I understand, because once I was there, like, I've had twofold. Like, obviously I was a new person, then I ended up being there for about 1.5 years. And so I was a veteran at that point, because the turnover rate at that office was so quick. I was a rookie and a vet. Like, I felt like I still didn't know what I was doing, but I was old enough to where I could be, or old enough, I'd been there long enough to where I could train everybody else, and I knew where things were, and I knew how to do just about everything that the position required, which was really weird. But anyway, I knew the insides and the background of like drama, and I saw how easy it was when somebody new came in and people would try and like get their claws in them and try and make them believe certain things and change their perspective, because I mean, perspective is gold. I say this all the time. If you come in saying like, oh, this doctor is like this and like that, then even if you don't know this person, you're going to start seeing things from that person based off of what people tell you. It's not just the same for the providers, it's also the same for the coworkers. If somebody comes in and tells you, oh, this person has a bad attitude, or they're always late, or they're really messy, or they don't do their job, or whatever it is, you're going to start seeing those things too. So I found it to be really difficult, because I would just let people figure out things for themselves. Like, if that person is not a good person, it's going to take you a while, but you'll end up seeing, because I was working with some people who were not good people. And I was just so confused. Like, how can you be such a bad person? But people have problems. They have personal problems. They have like issues that they need to go to counseling for. They need to see people. And anyway, yeah. So this was a really long spiel. All these are not going to be this long. I just wanted to set a preference for, I think one of the biggest things is like when you're first coming in and you're new to the workplace, is like not getting involved in the gossip and what people are saying about other people. Another workplace challenge that you will experience when you are new to the workplace is being heard, because it does take time to gain the trust of your coworkers and to get them on board with your ideas. Like for a long time, you just have to listen and observe before like suggesting changes, even if you know how to bring solutions to the table. Like some people just like things the way that they are, and they will be very much like, who is this person coming up in here thinking that they know everything, wanting to change stuff, like things have been working fine. Even if they know that there needs to be a change, people just get really comfortable with things and they don't necessarily want to change. So I found myself having like to over time build trust and then engage my coworkers by letting them know that I knew what I was talking about. I basically had to build a reputation of being clear-headed, objective, and reasonable for people to listen to my suggestions, or even just like let me have autonomy doing things that after a while it was like, I can do this. Like this is really simple. And I'm not talking about like super patient care, like no, you're newly being trained, but like simple stuff like, hey guys, I think I have a better way that we can like organize the office, things like that. Another workplace challenge when you're new in the workplace is just like making mistakes. This was something that was so big at my first job, and they happen to everybody at some point. Just admit to them and apologize. Like, don't offer excuses or try to cover them up. Instead, like, offer solutions as soon as possible and try to fix the problem on your own time. And then forgive yourself and move on. Like, I would really harp on myself. I would try and be so perfect at my job, but like, you can't be, especially in the workplace. Like, you're never going to be perfect. Like, you want to be as great as possible, but you're never going to be perfect. And I think that like having that pressure on myself and just feeling like, oh my gosh, like if I'm not perfect, like I didn't have a good day because I made this mistake, like you're going to make mistakes. So just like let go, like I said, admit to them and apologize, and try and find the person in the workplace who is going to help you out when you or if you make a mistake. Like there's certain people who I would learn like would blow things up or make it a bigger deal. Other people would be like, okay, no problem. Like this is what you should do instead. Or, okay, let me try and help you fix this. And it was really weird to see how different people would handle like the same mistakes. But yeah, that's something that I definitely noticed when you first come in. You just have to like try and find the person who's trustworthy if you end up making some mistakes. Next thing when you're new to working is time management. It can be difficult when you're settling into a new job and adjusting to your new responsibilities. I would try, and I still do this, even when I was in my new job, I tried to create daily like to-dos or goals list, breaking down my tasks. That way I was able to manage them, or that they seemed more manageable, and it helped me keep organized and it helped me be more productive and efficient, because it just felt like your whole day you're at work, and then after work it's like you just need to rest and prepare for work again. And if you do that over and over and over again, you don't really have any time to do anything else. I found it to be really helpful just to have a list of a few things that I wanted to do every day after work, or even some things that I could multitask during work. So whether it be during my lunch break or if I had any downtime. And then that way at the end of the week, I wasn't just like, dang, another week went by and I didn't do anything. All I've done is kind of like literally go to work. And the reason why, again, as a new employee or as a person where this is like not your end all be all, that can be really frustrating and kind of like overwhelming if all you do is just go to work, because you're probably not making enough money, so you don't want to get comfortable like just being there forever. So you need to like make steps in the new direction. It's also probably not super fulfilling, so just working all day every day isn't the happiest thing ever. And then like I said, also, you're probably wanting to do other things with your life. If I wanted to upload YouTube videos, or if I wanted to work on my application, or if I wanted to start writing my personal statement, like these are things that I had to have written down. Like, hey, just try and write freely for your personal statement for 15 minutes after work today, or send this email to somebody for them to look over your personal statement draft and give you some stuff. Like sending an email, and then there's so much like waiting and stuff in between that, yeah, I found it to be really helpful for me with time management, knowing that my job was not my end all be all, but also that it did take up like all of my day, all of my time, all of my energy. And if you're still having difficulty managing your workload, try and ask your coworkers for advice, or, speak with your supervisor. That way you can prioritize your work. But again, these are the coworkers who understand. Like, it was really helpful for me to have Glory, my work bestie, because she was pre-PA, and so she was in the process of interviewing for PA schools, like submitting her application and interviewing when I met her. So I was able to say, okay, how did you balance like doing this and doing this at the same time? Everybody there couldn't have given me that advice because everybody wasn't at that same place in their academic career. Even though other people wanted to be PAs, medical school, some people didn't at all. So you can't like ask the people who don't know, so again, that's when you like find your environment and things. And that brings us to like the next big chunk of workplace challenges, and it's just problems with coworkers. There are so many different type of people that I have met while working, and it's been eye-opening and just like confusing. Like, I can't believe there are people out there like this. So the first type of person that I met was just a slacker. Like, I think the big difference is like, every other type of team-based environment that I've been in before has either been like a school-based team thing where, for example, like SGA, we all have a goal and we all have our individual jobs and we're working together for like a greater goal. And, or like obviously sports, like volleyball or like the dance team, like we're all working together for something, even if we're individuals. Like, obviously we're all individuals, but at work, even though there are teams, sometimes people just didn't want to work hard. They didn't have to work hard. So slackers, they just lower everybody's productivity. And if a coworker's poor work habits are affecting your job performance, what I found to be helpful was to, if depending on their seniority, because that makes a really big difference, but explain to them respectfully how their behavior is affecting you and what you would like to see changed. And you have to, again, do it respectfully and nicely, but keep in mind that it is your coworker supervisor's responsibility to deal with that problem in the workplace. And so unless this person like has authority to delegate work to you, like you can just say no to their request, like to do their work. Like, I noticed that at my second job, I had so much more confidence if the girl who I felt like was a slacker at my job, if she asked me to do something, okay, once, sure, twice, okay, 3 times, I'm like, this is getting to be a habit. And, people are so good at it too, because they'll just be like, hey, do you mind just like go ahead and grabbing like 3-4 of my patients while I just step outside really quick? And you'd be like, what the heck? Like, they'll be so slick with it. And you're like, absolutely not. She did not just ask me to do that. And it's like little things, but it will really build up because, for example, again, just working in the healthcare field, my example being a medical assistant. If you have, let's say you have 30 patients a day, you are counting down. You're like, I hope everybody doesn't come. I hope that I have 30 or less patients. If I have to pick up one other person's patient, like, okay, maybe I'll do 31 or 32, but I only have the energy and the wristband to do that. And then, plus you probably have side work, whatever it is, other things that you have to do with your job. If somebody asks you to do you're not getting paid to do your job and their job at the same time. So it's okay like to say no, because I'm not being mean. I'm not being malicious. I just genuinely don't want to do your work and mine at the same time. And it gets hard because sometimes like I can do it, but I also like don't always want to. So finding that balance, and also just know like who's asking. Like sometimes you have to like set standards for people and be like, I'm not going to always say yes if you ask me to do something. And then for other people, kind of just being like, you work hard. If you grab my patients sometimes, like I'll grab your patients sometimes. If that's what you need, I'll be there to help in. And there's people like that where I would find out too, like it's a difference between like slacking and actually being teammates. Next challenge would just be like disagreeable coworkers. So they just create an unpleasant work situation. Sis, brother. Avoid them at all costs. Avoid them if possible. Be pleasant when you have to work with them and stand up to them when necessary. Even if they need to be dealt with, like, don't get in a fight with them. Talk to them calmly. Disagreeable coworkers, people who it's just very hard for you to figure things out with. Like, sometimes it just makes it a bigger deal if your supervisor knows about it. It's like, oh, you have to get them separated, or oh, they can't work together, or oh, this or oh, that. It's like, sometimes just try and handle it between, you and them. Next thing that I experienced were office bullies. They would cause me so much anxiety and stress. And what I noticed is that they often targeted those who they saw as a threat. My advice would be to not let them isolate you or like make you feel bad about yourself. Like, stand up for yourself. Stand up. Never sink to their level. Like, discuss the problem with a mentor or somebody who really trust. Preferably like not in the workplace unless they are like just very much so higher up and out of the way in the workplace, in order to discuss like the best way to handle them. And if they are like threatening you, report them to a supervisor. Like, stuff gets crazy. Okay, there are people who are just sad, and like I said, people who have problems and people who feel threatened, and they end up being bullies. And I'm like, I have never been bullied more than I was at work. I went to an all-girls college. I, made it through high school. Like, I went to an all-white institution and I was not bullied. I was bullied more at an all-black women's center. Like, talk about trauma. Like, that place traumatized me, man. I was like, I cannot believe I'm being bullied at my old age. And that was just a really hard situation for me to deal with. And I hope you don't have to. Gossipers and just like troublemakers, they can be especially disruptive to the workplace and cause like a lot of misunderstandings. A lot of it is just because like they're bored. Like, they have nothing else going for them. So be friendly, but like act busy, and they'll get the message that you have better things to do. Like, yeah, this person can like service your ears to the office grapevine and the workplace dynamics, but like, just don't comment or add any fuel to their behavior, because it's never worth it. Next up, we have whiners and complainers. Ooh, like I hate when people complain, and sometimes people probably think this whole video is me complaining, which is fair. That's fair. But it's something different where it's like, okay, well, what are you going to do about it? Like, when people tend to see the negative side to everything, like, this attitude can be harmful to like just the overall morale. Like, I am trying to wake up at 6 a.m. so I can get here and have a positive attitude. And you are making it hard for me. Like, just be empathetic, but put the problem like back on them. Like, ask them, like, what do you plan to do about solving that? Like, complaining may be their attempt to avoid conflict and relieve stress about the things that they are experiencing or the way that they feel, or just relieve stress about things that they feel that they have like no control over, or just simply to get attention. Like, I feel like I've seen it all, and my advice is do not try and be the problem solver for them. Like, that's not your job. And also, what I've seen from other people is that they will turn their complaints into office gossip, and I wouldn't recommend doing that either. It's just unnecessary. Like, just let a person vent and just ask them like, okay, so what are you going to do about it, and move on. Okay, this next one, sabotagers, is that the word? And backstabbers. Like, I have never in my life. These people in the workplace environment, they cause distrust by spreading rumors and withholding important information from those that they see as rivals. Y'all, keep your eyes out, because this can affect your career goals and your reputation. So confront them calmly about their behavior. Do not play their game. When you have a good idea, or if you know you're going to assist them on a project or whatever, like, tell your supervisor so that you can get the credit you deserve, because people are weird. They just have, I don't know, they thought differently than me. If someone is trying to make you look bad, my advice is just to check in regularly with your supervisor on your job performance. That way there's never so much noise going on behind your back about you that you are not familiar with. And something that I like to do was like, especially if I was working with a new provider, I would ask them like, how did I do today? Is there anything that I could help you with more? Is there anything that I could do better that you would prefer? That way would hear it directly from them and not other people who would like hear the information and then take it and run and then use it to stab me in the back later on or like sabotage me. It was just like, that's what I would do if I heard somebody was saying something. I don't know. Again, people are weird. And I say that I keep saying people are weird. And what that really comes down to is just like people in your workplace environment may not have the same ethics and integrity as you do. I personally feel like poor business and workplace ethics can be hazardous. And they can also be like hazardous to your like job security. You may feel like you're going to get fired, which is like the worst feeling ever. And it can follow you like for the rest of your career. So I personally just try to stay clear of those who would ask me to compromise my integrity. I would say no to requests that made me feel uncomfortable. I would often review like my employee workplace ethics and like understand like what was proper business etiquette and ethics, because just in some cases, like these issues would need to be reported to a supervisor or human resources. And then finally, when it comes to just like dealing with people is like, of course, getting along with your boss. Problems with your boss are like emotionally and physically draining, often stem from like work style or personality differences. And so the first step is to figure out specifically like what they're doing that's upsetting you or what you're doing that's upsetting them, and then like just ask yourself why. I think it helps to look at the problem from both of your perspectives and just decide how best to discuss it with them, and just try avoid blaming, accusing, or venting. What I learned in the situation was using the we approach. So we seem to be missing some deadlines because tasks aren't started on time. How can we fix this? Or, just offering a solution that will help both of you meet your goals and look good. And if the problem can't be resolved, then it's probably like not the best match for you. So I tried to make these very broad topics, again, things that I feel like could be helpful for you guys, not just me like venting here for an hour, like, and then on my third day of work, like, hopefully you guys can get a gist, either relate if you've been there before, or like get a gist of like what you could get yourself into like when you're going into the workplace environment, because I just didn't realize that it could be like just so much, so catty, so many different like personalities, and I just didn't think it could be like that at a workplace. And like I said, it took me a while before making the decision to quit, especially because it felt like, oh, this is a tight job market. Like I talked about a lot, like, oh, this is the job that I prayed for. Like I wanted to be here. I really wanted to make like my current job work. I tried like to pinpoint the problem and change my routine and take on more responsibility or like pursue interest outside of work, and really nothing was helping. And so how I managed while I was there was changing my mindset and my perspective, especially because that was like my year of gratitude. So I continued to have an attitude of gratitude. I was reading a book and I remember highlighting this part in it that said, instead of fixating on the unfairness of her circumstance and stewing over how she deserved something better, something that used her skills and education to best effect, she began to see her less than fulfilling job as an opportunity to advance the kingdom. So eventually, the constant cycles of negativity became literally a toxic workplace environment, and I was trying so hard to be like, what are these people going to say about me when I leave? Not that I care about like what you think, but that I care about how my character is perceived, and also am I in a place where I feel like I can't be my best self. Like this place I found was making me not the person who I wanted to be. I was snappy. I wasn't willing to help as much. I wasn't willing to I wasn't as like jokey and smiley. I felt like I really shut off my personality. Like I said, I was so anxious and stressed out all the time that I wasn't like my happy-go-lucky or bubbly self. And it was kind of like, this is like a toxic place for me to be in. Especially like once my work bestie left, I was like, yeah, I've got to go. And also I began to feel like I wasn't valued and that I just wasn't good enough like to work for my doctor or be at that job, when in reality I was more than good enough and I worked hard and I was overqualified, which is another reason why I felt was really messed up, was like I'm overqualified for this job. There's no reason why I have to feel like this in this workplace. And there's even like this great TikTok that I love that put it into perspective for me.
You will never be good enough for the wrong person. So when people do not see your value, it's not about, I'm not good enough, I'm not this. No, they're not for you. And we've got to learn to accept that and not internalize rejection, not internalize the fact that this person cannot step up to the table and give us what we need. That's not their role in our life.
And overall, I feel like that's a really great explanation as to why I left. Honestly, everything really started to change around like December, because at this point, the applications were all out there. I wasn't hearing back anything and I wasn't getting nervous, but I was like, okay, I need to think about what's going to be next for me, because I cannot and I will not be at the same place this time next year. Like, I just kept saying that. I was like, something's going to give. I'm either going to be in school, I'm going to be doing something different, but I will not be here for another year. Like, it's just absolutely not happening. And so while all of my applications were out there and all I could do was really just wait for interview invitations, I decided to apply to some post-bac programs in the meantime. I think I mentioned this a little bit to you guys, but I did. And the thing that was really hard for me was that I wanted a certain kind of post-bac program and they honestly just didn't exist. Like, there was no perfect post-bac program. I wanted a program that had the direct link into medical school, because I'm like, if I'm going to go back to school, I need to do 1-2 years max and get into the medical school. It doesn't need to be any more. I need to do this, that, jump through the hoops, upside down, turn around, do a split, and maybe we'll think about it or we'll recommend you to our next door neighbor. It's like, no, I need to get into your medical school after doing this, because that's what I found to be what's best for me, and also what a lot of like other Black medical students, that's what a lot of them did. If they didn't have those amazing statistics to get right into medical school, a lot of them did like those direct link programs. Once you know somebody there and you've shown yourself and you proved yourself, you got right in. But while I was applying for those few schools, I decided that I was also going to apply to new jobs, just in case if no post-bacs worked out for me. I wanted to go into, I wanted to switch things up. Again, if you guys watch the vlog, you know that I was looking into doing research. I was like, I feel like this is something that I could maybe vlog while I was working. A lot of you guys you're so confused as to why I wasn't like making more content during this time. And there were really like 3 main reasons for that. 1, I lost inspiration. Like, my life didn't inspire me anymore. It wasn't enjoyable to live. So it was really hard to make content that was enjoyable. 2, my workplace did not allow me to film. And I spent more than 50 hours there a week. I didn't have the money. I didn't have the mental energy. I needed to focus my time outside of work trying to get into medical school. And I really just had to put my social media on the back burner. If I could have created like work in my life videos every single week, I would have been consistently vlogging throughout this entire time. And then there's also the fact that I spent 6 months studying for the MCAT. And that was also a time where I felt like I really shouldn't have the camera around. So if you're like confused as to like, why weren't you just consistent on YouTube this whole time? It's like, it really just wasn't possible for me. And that's why I ended up creating this podcast. That way on the weekends, I could film a video and get it up for you guys and we could still talk and I can keep you updated. But I missed the vlogs and I was very upset that I wasn't able to create that content, during that part of my time. It really was just like a big block in my story that I had been filming since I was 18 years old. And so I wanted my next job for me to be able to film there at that workplace. And like I said, I really want to do research. And to be honest with you guys, I really just want to go into detail here because, again, just putting into perspective for you guys, for me, where I live at, I do live in Maryland, but I live in the suburbs of Maryland and Southern Maryland. And there are a lot of great places to do research, but we do have like major schools in DC and in Baltimore. So for example, if you're going to do any research here in Maryland, it's going to probably be at Johns Hopkins, which is in Baltimore, Maryland, which is an hour and a half away from me. So a lot of you guys were really upset that I said that I ended up getting a new job working in Virginia, but literally Virginia is closer to me than Baltimore was. I mean, technically commute wise, based off of like what it was in traffic, it might have been the same, but I interviewed for a lot of different research positions at Johns Hopkins and I got a few acceptances. And this is going to sound really just stupid. But to be honest with you, my grandmother ended up passing at Johns Hopkins Hospital, and I had like one of my interviews like right before her passing, and then another one was like 2 days after she passed. And like one of my interviews I just completely skipped because I just wasn't in the right mind space. And then obviously I messaged them afterwards and I was like, I'm sorry, like you no longer have to consider me for this position. Another one was like after everything kind of settled, but I was still very upset. Something about Johns Hopkins like honestly just scarred me, having to watch my grandmother pass there. And then just really knowing like, can I actually travel an hour and a half every day to go to work here? I just ended up not taking any of those research jobs. And the one research job that was a little bit closer to me, it was based in Baltimore, but it had other offices that were all the way spread down to Southern Maryland where I was. So I didn't have to travel that far to it. And that's why I really liked that job opportunity. But again, as I mentioned in the vlog, and if you haven't seen it, they basically were like, okay, cool. So I did 3 interviews with them. My third one, which was a working interview, they were like, do you want the job? Okay, like look out for a job offer from us. And I'm like, bet, here we go. And I go back to work and I tell, one of my friends there at work, like, girl, they told me about this in the job offer. It's a done deal. I'm about to be out of here. She's like, oh girl, say less. Let me go ahead and start interviewing and get up out of here too, because this place is crazy. Like I said, toxic workplace environment. We were both on the same page. And literally in between 2 weeks, she had found a job that she wanted to work at, interviewed there, got the job, and put in her 2 weeks. And I was like, I still had not heard anything back from my job place yet. And so I was like, I have to get up out of here. Like there were things happening every day where I was like, please. And at this point, I'm like emailing them like, hello, is the job offer coming? Like, are you guys going to send it? Are you guys going to send it? And they were like, yeah, we just have a few more interviews. And I was like, a few more interviews? I thought that you guys said that it was mine. Like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to move. I'm ready to move on. And this was like in February. So yeah, at this point, there was one point in time where I was like, I could possibly get the job, but it's a good chance I don't get the job. But there was a situation that happened at work where I was like, I am ready to go now, and I am willing to find another job, even if it's not a research job, just so that I don't have to work here anymore, because I know that it will be temporary, because I will not be in this position at this time. Because at this point, I'm thinking I'm probably going to go the post-bac route. So finally, I quit. I put in my 2 weeks. It was very bittersweet because, as I talked about in the video, it's like I wanted to end going to medical school. Like I wanted to end with my mentor who worked so hard to pour everything into me, being like, call me if you need anything. But instead, I was leaving not knowing where I was going next, and just really had a bad taste in my mouth about the experience, and kind of feeling like, wow, like just what is life? And long story short, the way I ended up getting my new job was that I put on LinkedIn that I was like looking for new jobs or whatever. And a recruiter reached out to me. And this was basically like a temp agency for like medical assistant jobs. And I really wasn't looking forward to working as a medical assistant again. But also the day after, like the day before my last day of work. So I put in my 2 weeks, a week and 6 days go by. On that 6th day, I ended up getting my first interview invitation. And I remember I was so excited, and it just felt so like, okay, Lord, you just needed me to move. You just needed me to move. And now you're going to go ahead and, make things happen. I was super excited. This was the only post-bac that I had actually applied to at that time. I was like, oh, this is it. Like, this is perfect. Their program is perfect. It's in Atlanta. Like, I'm super excited. All right, I'm good to go. Bye, y'all. I basically did that interview and like 3-4 other job interviews within the next 2 weeks. And I barely had any time before I ended up getting hired at the next job. And again, I was very particular about choosing my job because knowing what I knew about my past place, where it was like we didn't have enough employees, so we were very much so overworked. It was a very stressful environment, and I was like, that I just want the soft life for myself. I no longer want to be super stressed out at work because it no longer is going to serve me. My application is already out there. I don't even need more like clinical hours, if we being honest here. None of you guys are going to write me a letter of recommendation. I don't need work friends here. Like, I literally just need a check. This job was paying even more than what I was making at my other job, which was embarrassing to say the least. So I was like, you know what? So to answer all your questions in that vlog as to like why was I driving all the way out to Virginia, Virginia is actually closer to me, and it is very difficult to find like a healthcare type job when you're not working you're not working near any hospitals or major hubs where I live out, just so far in the suburbs. So I knew that I was going to have to travel far for work just because of where I lived, and if I wanted to travel far for research, I could have, but just when the opportunities were presenting themselves, I just wasn't in the right mind space, and that's okay. And again, I also knew like I'm 9 times out of 10 going to quit my job by June, either because I miss Maryland or because I'm going to be getting ready to go to school next. So I started my new job. If you guys haven't seen that, I got a job working at a pediatric specialty office, and it was really cool because there were many different specialties and it was also pediatrics, but I was a medical assistant again. And just to answer again your questions in the comments for that video, it was a lot of administrative work. So it was still the same type of position, but at my old job, even though I was a medical assistant, I just think that GYN has a lot more like hands-on. You just need to be more hands-on. Like, so you just have to help the provider more during the actual appointments. You actually have to be there for procedures and things like that. Whereas in this specialty, specifically in pediatrics, we just did a lot more administrative work. So more so my responsibility to make sure that things were in the chart for the patient before they got there, and that I would get their vitals and put them in the room. As I mentioned, I now know that I do not want to go into pediatrics, even though pediatrics was literally like number 3 on my list. Like I was like, okay, of course I want to be OBGYN. Number 2 is probably going to be family medicine. And number 3 would be pediatrics. Child, I don't know what's going to be number 3, but it ain't going to be pediatrics because I thought BB love the kids, but BB do not love the kids when it comes into a medical setting. And again, I talked about it in the vlog, but I mean, I think it's basically they're just so scared. And I do obviously a lot of mentorship, and you guys have like seen on vlogs where like just kids do love me, and I do love kids. When kids have like that glossy eye look at you and they're just like, oh my gosh, like you're so pretty and I just want to like be around you, and I just be like, oh. But when they're crying their eyes out and they're scared out of their mind and they don't know who you are, and they're screaming, they're punching, they're kicking, like between like and when I tell you guys, again, I don't have any babies in my life. The only baby that I have in my life is Britt's son, and she lives in Alabama. So I see that boy every now and then. The crying is like nails on a chalkboard for me. It's so uncomfortable. I do not enjoy it, and I don't blame them. They're just scared. They don't know any better, but boy, I did not enjoy that. So yeah, when they're just so afraid in a doctor's office setting, they think I'm going to give them a shot, or I have to prick their finger for, the diabetes stuff. It just was, overall, the experience was much better than my first job. Like I said, one, it's because I knew what I was looking for. So there was one job who offered it to me, and it was another GYN. It was like in it's like MedStar. I don't know if you guys are familiar with MedStar. It's like the GYN office at a big MedStar like hospital, but child, the way that the manager was talking to me, I was like, oh no, I'm going to be stressed. Like if I got any red flags for being stressed out, overworked, doing multiple people's jobs, like I was like, absolutely not. I'm not doing it. So I really still do like GYN. I'm glad that I got that experience at the first workplace, and I'm glad that I got the experience at my second workplace working with pediatrics, because like I said, I thought that I would have really liked it. Now I know I don't. So it was a specialty office. So different floors had different things. They had plastic surgery, neurology, ear, nose, throat, nephrology. What else? Personally, on my floor, there was pediatric GYN, there was endocrinology, there was GI, hematology, like all different types of stuff. I worked in like the endocrinology department. I also worked at the GYN and GI sometimes. So it was really cool to see different areas of medicine. I really wanted to do endocrinology. I don't think I talked about this, but when I came in for my interview, I had 3 interviews that day. So I was literally like, I didn't even know where I was or like what specifically that practice did. I just came to like speak about myself. And I remember them asking me like, okay, so out of all of our specialties here, like which one would you want to work at and why? And I said to myself, oh, you idiot. You didn't even do your research. I did do my research, obviously like looked online and stuff. And I was like, I could not remember for the life of me the different specialties that they had. But I remembered that they had an endocrinology department. I don't know what it was, but something just like clicked. And I was like, oh, I think somebody said something about endocrinology. And endo was one of the hardest classes that I took other than physiology during my master's of physiology program. And I was thinking to myself, wow, the way that I've learned so much about gynecology and women's health while working in women's health, I know that when I have to learn that stuff in medical school, I'm going to be so prepared and ready, because I really like know my stuff. And I felt like I really struggled with understanding hormones and endocrinology. So I figured that if I would work in the endocrinology department, that I would, basically be able to help myself in a field that I wasn't really strong in. So literally in my interview, I just blurted out like, oh, endocrinology would be nice. And I kind of give that synopsis. And they're like, great, because we actually do need somebody in our endocrinology department. And so I got the job. And what I really worked on there were like diabetes patients. And I also realized that there's a really big intersection between endocrinology and like women's health. So like, even if I wanted to go into more like fertility and do IVF and stuff, like some of those doctors are not OBGYNs, but they're actually endocrinologists. There's a lot of appointment types that we would see in the GYN office that I would consider to be like women's health problems. But, sometimes when you have an issue, you don't know like which doctor do I go to, which specialist do I go to, or depending on their age or their sexual health history or whatever, when you go to your primary care provider or just your regular pediatrician, or if you're grown, they will decide which doctor they'll send you to. So I thought it was really interesting that I actually got to see a lot of the same type of patients and problems, but I got to see how like endocrinologists would handle it versus gynecologists. So that was really great and fulfilling. I didn't need to see too much of it because it wasn't as much of a learning environment as my previous place was, but that was just because honestly, we had less responsibility than we did at my first job. So I was able to go in there and just mind my business and do my work. There were like people around all the time you guys saw in the environment, but that is the first and the last work vlog that you will get, because I quit that job too. And I didn't quit because of the job. The job was great and it was fine. But like I said, I knew that it was temporary. Basically, I got 2 other interviews. You guys are going to see this all together in a vlog that I'm going to put out next for you. I got a month before Miss Maryland, and I ended up getting accepted into a post-bac program, a really, really good, really prestigious post-bac program. And so at this point, I'm like, let's go. I'm out of here. Like, no matter what, when the program starts, I'm out. And it started a week after Miss Maryland. If you guys saw my last podcast episode, you know that I really, really, really wanted to be Miss Maryland. I worked really, really hard for it. And I wanted to be Miss Maryland over everything. And I thought that I had a really, really good chance. And so I was prepared to be Miss Maryland come June 26th. And I was going to put everything on hold if that was the case. If it was God's will for me, I was going to, use that year, work on my platform, go to Miss America and, maybe retake the MCAT and reapply, or I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do, but I was like, I'm just going to get the crown. I'm going to figure it out afterwards. But I know that I'm going to put school on hold for a year if I get the once in a lifetime opportunity to be Miss Maryland, because I can only be Miss Maryland one more time. This is my last year of eligibility, and I kind of have the wiggle room in my career while everything is just like dead right now. But for the school, I could apply for the program and maybe get into it again the next year. So it was really just a toss up between the two. Again, if you guys saw my last podcast titled Big Fat Loser, then you know that I did not end up winning. And so I was so tired, drained, upset, confused, disappointed, and also scared out of my mind, because by this point, and again, you'll see more in the vlog, was so like, I don't actually want to go to this program. It was the only one that I ended up getting into, so I didn't have any other options, and it was starting soon, and I put everything on hold for Miss Maryland. So I quickly had to start packing, find an apartment, and get ready to go back into a very intense program in order for me to go to medical school. And so it was a very bittersweet moment, but my body was just like rejecting it. Either way, I knew that I needed some time to rest. So after the competition on Saturday, I spent the night at the Maryland hotel from Saturday to Sunday. And it was actually really sad because on Sunday driving home, my mom and my aunt wanted to stop by like the outlets there. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to sit in the car. My mom was like, come on, shop with us. And I was like, y'all, I'm sad. I'm disappointed. I really thought I was going to win. I don't want to shop right now. My mom was like, shopping spree on me. Like, just get whatever you want. We'll consider this to be back to school shopping. I literally was so sad. Like, that's how I'm sad. I was like, yo, I don't even want to spend your money, Nina. And I ended up like, just getting things. And I'm like, okay, this would be cute to like wear if I'm like studying. And I got some stuff. I actually got a lot of stuff because, you don't got to tell me to blow a check too many times. That was all day Sunday, and we drove home, and I came back, and I, had to unpack the car, and I unpacked that day, and I was in the bed all day long. And come Monday morning, I was like, I'm not going to work. I have 1 week and I have to figure out my life, and I need time to rest before I start this new big chapter of my life. So I quit. I texted my boss. It was the most unprofessional way to quit ever. I'm like so disappointed in myself, but I was like, I knew it was going to be temporary. And I told my boss there was a chance that I wasn't going to show up on Monday morning if I was Miss Maryland. But I didn't end up being Miss Maryland, and I still ended up quitting. So yes, I quit again. That's the story of that. If you guys want to see like what's happening next, stay tuned because y'all, life gets crazy. You thought it ended there, but it didn't. Life gets crazy. I can't believe I thought this was going to be a short podcast episode. When is it ever short with Brelynn the blabbermouth? I'm going to go ahead and put in some kingdom keys here because there was a lot of just uncertainty and darkness and doubt when I was in my workplace, like so much uncertainty. And if you are there in that place now, whether you're just starting or you are in the middle of it, I just want to give you guys just something to hold on to.
Ask Joseph, there are times where what you see as a crisis, what you see as a problem, what you see as bondage is God's way of actually getting you into the king's house. Okay, every elevation is not necessarily going to happen for you through positive means. But if you are God's man or if you are God's woman, you have to stop in the midst of what you think is a negative situation going on at your job and recognize that even though it happened through negative means, you're still now behind the veil. Okay, and I prophesy that you're not going to have to beg. You're not going to have to ask. You're not going to have to request. You're not going to have to apply for this next assignment because even if your coworker tries to trip you up, the reality is that they're trying to trip you up, but God is using it as a setup just so that he can get you into the king's court. God is going to orchestrate kings to request that you be brought up and into, because the truth is you're going to say, I didn't ask to be here, I was asked to be here.
And last but not least, we're going to end this episode off right with a few minutes of guided affirmations to keep our spirits up and focused as we move throughout our day. Remove all distractions and verbally repeat these words out loud after me. Today, I will concentrate on taking one step forward, however small it may be. Every morning I wake up, I am given a new opportunity to learn and grow. Each new phase of my life allows me to grow as a person. I receive the lessons from each experience with a grateful mindset. I am proud of myself for staying calm and positive. I remain at peace even in this difficult moment. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast episode. I hope you enjoyed it and you learned some things. And again, if you are going through anything similar to what I was going through in my workplace drama, feeling like I was in a toxic workplace environment, feeling like I had no friends, like there was no way out, it's only temporary. I just kept reminding myself that it was only temporary and that's the only thing that would get me through. And now that I'm on the other side of it, it feels like it was a blink. It feels like it was a lifetime ago. It feels like it was forever ago and it was just a distant memory. And so I hope these different tips and perspective will help you during your time as you know that you're not alone and it won't last forever. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe. You can do so on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcast. If you're not already watching the pod, don't forget we're over here on YouTube. So subscribe to Beauty and Brains 5. You can also follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Brelynn Hunt and visit my website, BrelynnHunt.com, for weekly podcast updates or to contact me to share your story. Until next time, be sure to live each day to the fullest because you only live once and give yourself some grace. We are all just a work in progress. Bye, y'all. Wait. I forgot. Release your job. Y'all, I forgot that during this time, Beyonce released Break My Soul. I can't make this stuff up. This is a YouTube exclusive, okay? Please enjoy. I really wish I was not going to get copyrighted for jamming out to this, but can we take a moment to talk about how Beyonce and I are like this? When I decided that I was going to quit my job, she made an anthem talking about some release your job, everything. Because let me tell you, okay, they've been trying to break my soul these past couple of weeks. They've been trying to break a lot of things. But Beyonce said, you can't break my soul. Wow. Because Beyonce said it, I believe it. You know how like you love a song so much, like for example, right? A lot of people like the old Drake and it's because you liked where you were when old Drake dropped. I can already tell this is going to be one of my favorite Beyonce songs ever because I have been in such a dark, deep place for so long. And finally, I'm at the other end of the tunnel. That last page was holding on to me, okay? Had me by the neck. It was not trying to let me go, even up to the last days. But finally, the new chapter is finally starting and I'm so excited. I really do feel like everything has tried to break my soul over the last 2 years and that I deserve to release my job, release the stress, release the pain, forget the rest. People think that it's funny, like, Beyonce, we can't be releasing our jobs. I'm like, no, B, this one was for me. Whenever I listen to it, I'm just going to think about finally breaking through from the toxic work environment, breaking through from the season of doubt, the season of setbacks, when I look back at all the sad podcast titles, but that were just really how I was feeling. And this one is just a release. Like, I quit and I'm excited because no matter what I went through, I decided that it can't break my soul.